Felix, thank you so much for coming and chatting with us today a little bit about your experience. And I'm super excited to get to have all of you get to know Felix a little bit better. Felix, I'm wondering if you can introduce yourself and share a bit about your career before joining PreSales Academy.
Yeah, absolutely, Liz. Thanks for having me. Prior to technology and solution engineering, I actually worked in construction as a project manager and a civil engineering assistant. And then on the side, I had like a small business where I secured building plans and permits, things like that.
Very different from pre-sales. So I guess I'm curious, what inspired you to pursue a career in pre-sales, and how did you discover PreSales Academy?
This was never my childhood dream. So after COVID, construction sites just shut down completely. The cities closed their doors for anything like permit related. So basically, since both of my streams of revenue just went out the window overnight, I knew it was time to pivot. And thankfully, my brother Alex had been working in pre-sales for a few years already. So he introduced me to the role and also pre-sales academy. And it was more of like just the right time, the right opportunity. And I honestly consider it to be the best decision of my life. Of course, after asking my wife to marry me. So
Priorities there.
absolutely.
I love that. And for those of you who don't know, Felix was actually a part of our cohort one. So he's definitely been in the pre-sales world for a while now. I'm curious, what skills or knowledge did you gain that you found most valuable in your current role?
I would say how to build trust. Um, and it's not that hard. It's actually quite simple, right? So the way that I look at it is you must be of service to everyone you interact with. So let's say, for example, with AEs, watch those recorded videos, go into their notes, come prepared with a suggested game plan, offer assistance and follow up, offer creative ideas to support them. Maybe with your managers, volunteering for those like really annoying RFPs, requests for proposals, right? They take time, but you're going to earn brownie points and you're also going to become a really great product expert quickly. Prospects and customers, understand who your audience is. What's the goal of the meeting? What does value mean to them? Things like that, right? It's not that hard. You just got to do a little bit of work before a meeting.
That's so important. I mean, trust is obviously it's critical in any role that you have, especially in a sales role, but so incredibly important for pre-sales. I'm so glad that you brought that up. And things like doing the things that people don't want to do to learn, like the RFPs. That's a perfect example. I guess I'm curious, especially because you came from a world that was outside of tech. What challenges did you face when shifting into the pre-sales field, and how did PSA prepare you to overcome
I would say I probably faced every challenge there is in the book. But the biggest one to highlight here would be just imposter syndrome. Not coming from a place of experience or, very little knowledge about technology. It was tough. But really, PSA had helped me to create a positive relationship with imposter syndrome. And that was mostly credited to my PSA coach. He helped me understand that imposter syndrome can be something that can hold us back or can fuel our growth, right? And once you establish that, it's you learn to be excited instead of fearful, right, for these new opportunities. And to dive a little bit deeper, here's an example of how I did it with my first company, Gainsight. So I knew very little about customer success or Gainsight's platform. So my number one goal in onboarding was basically to become a product expert and to become an industry expert. How I did that was I listened to audiobooks, podcasts in my free time while working out, whatever, walking the dog, I was on, right? I follow leaders on LinkedIn religiously, especially the competitors. Competitive differentiation is enormous. And I also followed our internal Slack channels that were just designated really for customer success managers, CSMs. But they had so much valuable information that sometimes can be lost. Different different roles can have different silos, and it's so important and so valuable for you as somebody in pre-sales to say, hey, this is how our customer success managers use our platform, and does this make sense for you all, right? Would this work? There's a lot of value there to speak from a place of knowledge of how we're leveraging our own tools as thought leaders.
I love that. That's so important to kind of think about all the different ways. And there's so many different inputs that you can get both internally and externally to help you in your role. I love that. And I guess that brings me to kind of just understanding a little bit of some of the specific ways that the PSA training helped you excel in your current job. Because I know you've had, pre-sales job, you have had a sales job since then. So tell me a little bit about how did PSA help?
Yeah, I would start off with something that's easy to remember, right? It's actions speak louder than words, right? And one thing when I came into my onboarding, they would say, "Hey, we're prospect focused," or "We're the number one partner," and I leaned on that in the beginning with people just saying it, and I realized very quickly everybody says that in a sales cycle. Everybody, it's the same lip service, right? So what are your actions to show the prospects, the customers, that we are the number one partner, that we have a competitive differentiation from the other competitors, right? So how I did that was I just went a little bit the extra mile. I would create personalized 2-minute Loom videos detailing value and competitive differentiators in my recaps. Honestly, this allows your prospects to quickly understand the value post meeting and to easily share that with decision makers. If you're just leaning on sending the recording of the 60-minute demo, 40-minute demo, whatever it is, nobody has time to rewatch that and find like the perfect moments to share with a higher up.
Mhm. No, I love that is like you're understanding who you're selling to, you're understanding their pains or challenges, as well as making sure that you getting in their minds, no, they're not going to watch the recording, but they will focus on some key highlights. I
Oh yeah,
absolutely
absolutely.
love that. So if you're watching and you're not doing that, take Felix's advice. Um, Now, Felix, I've known of your journey since the very beginning, and I have my, personal moments that I love of what I think what I love that you've done in your role. I'm curious if you can share some moments where you felt particularly proud of something that you've accomplished after PSA.
Yeah, I would say from a deal perspective, I was incredibly proud of a specific deal where I exemplified multi-threading with different stakeholders, had really great AE, SE collaboration, and was able to use like the power of competitive intelligence to become the vendor of choice, the preferred vendor early in the deal. We also continually aligned to the big picture, the vision, and we were able to use momentum and create urgency even as new stakeholders entered the discussion. And I know that's super wordy, but again, I think that all comes back to just showing them that you're ready to go the extra mile, that it's just beyond that lip service, asking thoughtful questions, reviewing what they already said to your AEs in the previous discussion and not repeating things like that.
Oh, that is
Um,
you're showing them the value, you're not just telling them.
yeah, yeah. And then honestly, not everything is about deals. I think at my company Gainsight, previously we had a great team and created really great friendships where people on the team felt like family. And when they're having a tough day or stressed out, they could lean on me or I could lean on them, vice versa. And just being there for people like as human beings. I'm extremely proud to be able to do that with a stranger. I think that's not always easy to do these days. So yeah, I think those two would sum it up.
I love that. All very, very important things, Felix. To wrap us up, I'm curious if you could say anything to someone transitioning from another career into pre-sales. Well, what advice would you give them?
There's so many things, right? But I think the whole point is to provide what was most beneficial for me. And I think the thing there is feedback is a gift, right? So we must be radically open to feedback and actively seek it. So it's not so easy for people to usually receive or even give feedback. So here's an example of how not to ask feedback from maybe a AE or manager who was just in the previous meeting with you. Do you have any feedback for me? Right? These people, they're busy. They don't want to, attack you or potentially hurt your feelings. There's a long relationship to grow there. Um, and here's an example of a way that I thought was a little bit better to ask for feedback, post demo, presentation, whatever. Um, if we had a chance to do this demo over again, what is the one thing we could have done differently? And then from there, after they open up, then you can ask, what could I have done differently? Right? So it all depends on how you ask for feedback. And people aren't going to give you good feedback if you're asking for five different things, or if you're asking personally for you to criticize me. But if you set it up in a scenario where this imaginary world, if we had a chance to do it over again, what could we do differently? It's a soft way to be able to give you constructive criticism.
I love that, Felix. It feedback can be such a touchy subject and it can be hard to give and it can be hard to receive. And making that kind of taking away some of the scariness of it and the way that you're asking, that's so important. And I'm sure you yourself have gotten so much better. You yourself have gotten a wonderful wealth of feedback in that particular way. So thank you so much for sharing. And Felix, thank you so much for chatting with me here today. I've always enjoyed hearing about your journey. And, I love seeing your growth. I can't wait to see where you're going to be in another 3 years. And again, thank you for chatting about yourself, your journey. Congratulations on where you have been, and I can't wait to see where you go. And overall, happy birthday, PSA. Happy third birthday.
Woo!